Tyler Jones here. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of Ravens Rundown, powered by Chat Sports. We are talking Ravens trade rumors today, as we'll take an inside look into our NFL Daily program, where we got a lot of questions about the Ravens and some potential trades. Could they be interested in a guy like Davante Adams or Marshon Lattimore, among others? We'll dissect those questions and answer what you guys got coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do, folks, we're on the road to 17,000 subscribers here on Ravens Rundown, but we need your help. We're just under 500 subs away from reaching that next mark. For the latest happenings on your favorite team all offseason long, there is no offseason here on Ravens Rundown. We're talking news and rumors. We're talking everything from trades, free agency, mini camps, OTAs, training camp, and more. It's all covered right here on Ravens Rundown by Chat Sports. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/RavensTV, and we'll get started with today's show. First question coming in from Liam Neeson. How's this from Liam Neeson? Is Davante Adams happy in Las Vegas? Could he be traded? Very interesting, Liam. Thanks for the question. Davante Adams, happy? I wouldn't necessarily say happy, because it's hard to imagine that a player of his caliber, who is still one of the best in the National Football League, despite being in no man's land in Las Vegas with that just bad Raiders team and how disastrous the last 2 years have gone, hard to imagine him being happy. But happy enough to request a trade? I don't think so. I think this next year will tell us a lot when it comes to Davante Adams. If the Raiders have a down year, then I could see him wanting out after this upcoming year. But I would be shocked if he gets traded right now. I know that there's some teams that jump out right away. People think like the Baltimore Ravens, the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Jets, just as examples of teams that could potentially be interested if he were to hit the trade market. But I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he stays in Vegas for now. Let's see how this season goes. How about the quarterback play? Is Gardner Minshew or AOC going to be good enough for Davante Adams? That all remains to be seen, but I don't think he's going anywhere right now. Will the Raiders trade Davante Adams? What do you guys think? Y for yes, N for no. Chime in that comment section. Tell me if you think Davante Adams is gone or not. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. You choose two or more players on any given category, get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points, maybe it's rebounds in basketball, home runs in baseball, birdies in the PGA Championship going on this weekend, all sorts of different categories to choose from. Here's what I got on Prize Picks. I'm going with DK Metcalf to hit the more on 1,025.5 receiving yards this season. Got Lamar Jackson to have more than 3,600.5 passing yards this year as well. If I put $20 down, both these hit, that's going to turn into $60 on Prize Picks. Play along with us. PrizePicks.com/SailItS. Promo code SailItS for a $100 deposit match on your first entry. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, proud partner of NFL Daily. Glad to have them on board here on today's show. Next question coming in from Give Mouse a Cookie. What's going on with Marshon Lattimore? Will the Saints trade him? So Marshon Lattimore, that situation is interesting because the Saints are in salary cap hell, right? And that situation is, I think, where Lattimore would like to play for a contending team and make good money and all that, and the Saints potentially could unload Marshon Lattimore. I think it's about a 50-50 possibility when it comes to the Saints potentially moving on from Marshon Lattimore. I could see a number of teams that need help at corner looking to make a move. I know that the Ravens were talked about a while back, but since then they've loaded up in the draft with the additions they've made at the corner position. When you've talked about what they did with getting Nate Wiggins and TJ Tampa. So I don't think Baltimore is necessarily that team, but maybe a team like Miami, who could use some help on that defense, could use a guy like Marshon Lattimore. I think that's a possibility. I think the Carolina Panthers, I know it's an intra-division situation, so could be unlikely, but if you're the Saints, I don't think you're fearing Carolina as far as that goes. Maybe the Dallas Cowboys could use some help at the corner position. Those are some teams that come to mind. But if the Saints do decide they want to move on from Lattimore, there'll be plenty of teams that'd be interested in Lattimore's services. Will the Saints trade Marshon Lattimore? What do you guys think? T for trade, P for pass. Will we see a trade involving the Saints corner? Let us know in the comment section below. Mike wants to know, will the Cowboys trade for Deebo? You know, I look at that Cowboys team, and they could use a guy like Deebo Samuel. CeeDee Lamb doesn't have a ton of help in that receiving core. And some of you may be saying, well, wait, why would the Niners want to trade with the Cowboys, considering they're two of the upper echelon teams in the NFC and help Dallas out? Well, they traded him Trey Lance last year. That shocked everybody, so there is some precedent there. Jerry, I'm still waiting on that splash for him to make. We heard him say they were going all in this offseason, right? And they haven't done much. They've lost 5 starters on that offense. I wouldn't rule it out, but I would say it's unlikely that Dallas ends up trading for Deebo. I do think the Niners will trade Deebo, but I would be surprised if Dallas ultimately is that destination. Christopher writes in, will T. Higgins be traded? I want him in New England. I don't think T. Higgins is getting traded. I think that the Cincinnati Bengals are going all in on this year, that they're going to hang on to him for now and kind of let the situation play out. They'll pay him his money for this year, and then T. Higgins will get paid big money elsewhere next year as a free agent, that they'll settle for the comp pick that they can get for him. New England, I think, is the obvious choice. They need some help for Drake May. They need some young talent there. T. Higgins would be a nice fit, but I would be surprised if T. Higgins got dealt with this circumstance of the Cincinnati Bengals just trying to capitalize on what they got. Mike wants to know, my bold signing, Michael Thomas to the Chargers. You know, the Chargers are desperate at receiver as well, and they don't have a ton of cash to spend. Remember, they were in a tough salary cap situation entering this offseason. So if you're wanting to take a flyer on a guy and get help at the receiver position, then I think the Chargers could be a potential good fit. We talked about on the channel earlier this week that the Denver Broncos could reunite with Michael Thomas as well. So that's a possibility. But Michael Thomas, yeah, I would say the Chargers would make that short list potentially for Michael Thomas. Skeletor writes in, who should the Ravens trade for this offseason? I want the Ravens to go get receiver help. I want the Ravens to go get a splash receiver, whether it's a Deebo Samuel type. That name's been thrown out there for the Bengals. Some of these other receivers, like we mentioned Davante Adams earlier, I don't see that happening, but if it were to come available, that'd be great. Courtland Sutton, I think, is the most likely option for the Baltimore Ravens to potentially acquire. You look at the situation with the Broncos. They're strapped for cash with all the money they're owing to Russell Wilson. And that's a team that's rebuilding. If you're Baltimore, could give up potentially like a 3rd or 4th round pick. I think that could make sense. Mike wants to know, should the 49ers trade for Joey Bosa? Put the Bosa brothers together. As cool as that would be, I don't think it's likely. The Niners, I think their number one priority should be trying to keep Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and try to hold this roster together. That defense was arguably one of, if not the best defenses in all of football last year. As good of a player Joey Bosa is, I just don't see that happening. And it would cost so much, I don't think it necessarily makes financial sense to bring in a guy like Bosa. And I think the Chargers are happy with Bosa and they want to keep him around. Last question. Name a player that Eric DeCosta and the Ravens need to sign in NFL free agency. Keep an eye on those receivers, man. The Tyler Boyds of the world. Some of these other receivers that are hanging out there. That's what I would look for, is the Ravens potentially to target some of those receivers that are on the market right now. Thanks for the question there. Thank you all for joining us here on NFL Daily. Who's a player that gets traded before the start of the NFL season? Give me a name that comes to mind. Let us know in the comments section. Subscribe now to NFL Daily. Stay up to date with the latest happenings across the National Football League, and we shall see you next time here on the program.